Both these players sitting at 8-1. Should be a fun start to the day. We do appreciate you guys joining us early this morning here from Syracuse as round number 10 starts with a Temple of Abandon. Top card goes to the bottom for VanMeter.
Another new addition for this strategy for Chase and Matt Costa this weekend, one copy of Stratus Dancer. That's a card I'm a big fan of, though unlikely to be very good in this matchup where the game is mostly about creatures. Still a card I think has a lot of potential in this sort of deck and others.
Temple of Epiphany here for Kovac. We'll see where the top card goes as he is taking a long look at his hand. He's going to move it towards the bottom, and we're going to go back VanMeter's way. Stormbreath Dragon the draw for Chris. A Temple of Abandon here as well. So he'll take a look at the top card. It'll go to the bottom, and he'll pass the turn back. So no mana acceleration here for Chris early on. Does have plenty of it, and Elvish Mystic and Sylvan Carry added. A Flooded Strand and a passing of the turn. Crater's Claws, the draw here for VanMeter. He'll play a copy of Haven of the Spirit Dragon. Now there's a Courser of Krufix. That will resolve. Top card is a Courser. We'll see if Chase has something like a Valorous Stance, but he does not.
3 main deck copies of Valorous Stance for Chase.
God's Willing was the draw. Kovac will sacrifice his Flooded Strand. It'll be a Plains that he does search up. So he's down to 19.
And Chase and Matt playing a very proactive build of the deck this weekend. Very few lands that come into play tapped. Relative to other builds of Jeskai that I see, only the 6 temples. For example, Kevin Jones on quite a few more temples because he's playing a much bigger build of the strategy.
Oh, absolutely. There's a Battlefield Forge. And now here's a Mantis Rider. So we're going to the skies. Chris will take 3. He'll draw his Courser, Haven of the Spirit Dragon, on top of the deck. You see Kovac's going to take a look at Haven of the Spirit Dragon. Wants to make sure he knows exactly what that one does.
It's good in conjunction with dragons.
Nice. Very nice. You just on it early.
Just, yeah. Starting off strong.
That'll enter the battlefield, trigger the Courser. Elvish Mystic on top. See if Chris wants to go the Thunderbreak region route. Also has the ability this turn to just cast Crater's Claws and kill the Mantis Rider.
I mean, Thunderbreak region in theory checks the Mantis Rider, but it's rough to get in that sort of tempo game against Jeskai aggro because if Chase has a response to your Thunderbreak region, then all of a sudden you're taking a lot of damage on the way back and you're getting closer and closer to burn range. So sometimes it's good to take overly conservative lines against Jeskai aggro.
Here's an attack into a Mantis Rider I kind of love.
It's free.
It is relatively free.
Chase either blocks or he doesn't.
Yep.
And either way, you're happy. He may decide that he doesn't want to block for risk of losing it to something like, you know, a Crater's Claws for 1 or some such. And if he blocks, nothing bad happens to you.
Well, he did not block. He's down to 16. So Chris able to sneak through 2 points of damage there. Plays a Thunderbreak region after combat. We head back Chase's way. Chase has played an island for his land. We'll see if he has a way to get through the Thunderbreak region. A very, very powerful card from Dragon's Tark here.
So he's got Stoke in hand. So now it's just an issue of how much else can he do this turn and still stoke the Thunderbreak region, or is he better served spending his mana elsewhere?
He'll play a second Mantis Rider.
So that takes Stoke the Flames off the table for this turn.
We'll go back Chris's way. Elvish Mystic will be the draw. We'll see the top card of the deck is a copy of Crater's Claws.
Very good for Chase to know about that one.
Indeed, though he does not know about the one in Chris's hand. Manic Influence will enter the battlefield. That'll trigger the Courser, of course. He's up to 19. And Chris with a healthy hand here. Courser, Elvish Mystic, Stormbreath Dragon, and Crater's Claws. See how aggressive VanMeter wants to get.
Now, there are multiple copies of God's Willing in Chase's main deck. I'm not sure if Chris is aware of that fact. But this would be potentially a very good spot to have it, depending on Chris uses his Crater's Claws or how Chris wants to attack this turn.
Here is Crater's Claws. This will be for 3, thanks to Ferocious. Chase is going to take 1. We're going to see a God's Willing here.
It's a pretty brutal turn for Chris because it also means that attacking with the Thunderbreak Regent this turn is probably off the table.
That is certainly off the table.
So if Chris's follow-up is, let's say, the Courser Kruvix, and Chase has the opportunity to untap and do something to the Thunderbreak Regent, either play Icefall Regent or you Stoke the Flames to get it off the table, Chase may turn the game around in pretty short order.
The follow-up here looks to be a Courser, as this will allow Chris to use all of his mana on the turn. So he'll have to take 1 to cast that thanks to the Mana Confluence. It's 18 to 17 now. And with no good attacks available, you have to imagine Chris is just going to pass the turn back. So we'll head back Chase's way. The God's Willing was timely. Does have Ramaz in hand, at least 1 copy of Icefall Regent. Though it's unclear if he has the 5th mana, and it doesn't look like he does. So he'll go to Soulfire Grandmaster. And you've already mentioned the Stoke the Flames in hand.
Chase gets a lot of very good options this turn. He can attack with the Manus Riders, and then before blocks, go ahead and stoke down the Thunderbreak Regent, gain a bunch of life, deal 6, clear out Chris's lone 4-power creature with a Crater's Claws on top of his deck. I mean, this is a great looking turn.
This is a fantastic turn. He'll take 3 from the Thunderbreak Regent, but he's going to gain 4, so he's actually just going to be +1. And he also gets to deal 6. So that's a healthy turn as Crater's Claws is the draw. Top card of the deck here for Chris is Temple of Abandon.
And Chris might be compelled to put the Stormbreath Dragon in his hand on defense. And if that's the case, then the Icefall Regent can enable the type of play I spoke of before we win here, which is Chris has the capability of killing it with the Crater's Claws he's just drawn, but the tempo swing, taking 6 in the air, having to spend the turn, killing the Icefall Regent, then not being able to, do anything with the Stormbreath that turn because it's still tapped, might allow Chase to squeeze through lethal.
And Dragon Lord Atarka is pretty attractive. That's not going to the bottom, I imagine. Chris is only 1 mana away from that at this point. Elvish Mystic can generate that 1 mana, as he does have one of those in hand. So he's got some options to weigh.
Yeah, now instead of the Stormbreath Dragon, for example, he can go, I'll Crater's Claws one of your Manus Riders down, play the Elvish Mystic, and then 7 mana is at the ready next turn.
There is Crater's Claws.
I think if Dragon Lord Atarka was not the card on top of his deck, you may have seen Chris play Stormbreath Dragon on defense this turn. But now he's got a much different line of play available to him.
Of 1 Courser come in, going to hang the second one back on defense to take care of the Soulfire Grandmaster. He'll take 1 to play the Elvish Mystic and pass that turn back over to Kovac. Kovac draws. It is the 5th land, though it enters the battlefield tapped. Temple of Triumph. Mantis Rider will come in the air. VanMeter will go down to 10. There's that Temple. Take a look at the top card. It'll become the bottom card.
I think if Chase had an untapped 5th land here, you might have seen him go play Icefall Regent and take care of the Elvish Mystic and hope that Chris didn't have access to 7th mana next turn. But now, as it stands, Chase is going to lose a lot of his board.
Atarka the draw. Mountain on top. Mountain one to the battlefield from Courser. 2 triggers. Draconic Roar on top of the deck now. And I got a feeling we're going to see a big old dragon here this turn.
There's definitely a discrepancy in the power level of the 2 decks once we get into this kind of spot.
I'm inclined to agree. Here is Dragon Lord Atarka. 3 there, 2 there. And there's just an 8/8 for Kovac to deal with. No big deal.
For his burn base removal strategy.
He does have an Icefall Regent. That will take care of Dragonlitter Tarka. Chris going to take a look at this, and this is an important one to read. That third line of text down there, spells your opponent's cast that target Icefall region costs 2 more.
Yeah, Tom Ross got tripped up by this yesterday, trying to use a Dramoka's command when he did not have the 2 mana available to pay for that last line of text.
However, for VanMeter, you see the Draconic Roar on top of his deck. That's pretty important, as that'll take care of Icefall region. It'll be a little more expensive than he'd like, but it will get the job done. So Draconic Roar is the draw. The top card of the deck is Wooded Foothills. That'll bring Chris up to 14. Corsair really going to work this game, making sure Chris draws all good ones.
Yep. He's been land on top and gassy draw step for a fair bit of this game. The life gain very important here because Chase was close to, even if the board got locked up, being able to burn Chris out.
Chris conveniently with enough mana at this point to play Stormbreath Dragon and Draconic Roar in the same turn. So there's Stormbreath. With Roar costing 2, excuse me. And then you have to pay the additional 2. You see he's going to search for a land with Wooded Foothills. Elvish Mystic and the 2 other lands on the battlefield will allow him to cast Draconic Roar, get the bonus because he has Dragon in play, and get that Icefall region off the table.
And the Wooded Foothills is net 1 life also.
Yes.
A great turn.
We'll see the top card of Chris's deck here in just a moment, which is a Temple. Chris will have to pay that extra 2. So Icefall region is off the table. Here comes Stormbreath Dragon in the air. And Chris with plenty of mana now to actually use the Monstrosity and Stormbreath Dragon as well. He is in the driver's seat.
Even a follow-up Icefall region here on Chase's side is not going to be enough.
Icefall region is certainly going to have its spots in this matchup where it's going to be very, very powerful.
If Chase had it on time, it might have been enough to win this game.
Yeah.
But he missed his 5th land drop. Then he drew a Temple instead of an untapped land. And by that point, Chris had done too much powerful stuff. But I think if Chase had it on the 5th turn or on the 6th turn, that would have been good enough to win this game. Don't let the avalanche on Chris's side of the table fool you right now. Chase was very close to winning this one.
There's Icefall region again. It'll shut down Dragonlitter Tarka, but Stormbreath Dragon in combination with Monstrosity is the real problem here. Temple of Banner will be the draw for Chris. Top card of the deck is an Elvish Mystic. There is the Temple. VanMeter's going to go up to 16. Elvish Mystic predictably going to go to the bottom of the deck. Top card of the deck now is a Stormbreath Dragon.
Welcome back, old friend.
Yeah. This is home for Chris VanMeter.
Now Chris can go monsters with the Stormbreath Dragon this turn. That forces Chase to chump block with the Icefall region.
That's exactly what will take place. A little bit of damage will be dealt thanks to the Monstrosity. Chase down to 6, and he will concede the game. So Chris VanMeter up a game here with Chase Kovac. Red-green aggro, give him some beatdowns to Jeskai aggro as we turn our attention to the sideboard, and we will start with Chase and his Jeskai deck.
2 copies of Negate, 3 copies of Disdainful Stroke, an Obzon Advantage, a God's Willing, an Encased in Ice, a Wild Slash, a Glare of Heresy, 2 copies of Arc Lightning, the 4th Valorous Dance, a Prognostic Sphinx, and an Elspeth Sun's Champion. So the cards that really stand out to me here are the cards that are especially good against large creatures. The 3 copies of Disdainful Stroke, the Encased in Ice, and I think the Elspeth Sun's Champion are pretty well suited for this matchup. The additional copy of Valorous Dance as well.
On the other side of things here for VanMeter, 2 Arbor Colossus, 2 Wild Slash, 3 Seismic Rupture, 2 Hornet Nest, a Roast, a Nissa Worldwaker, a Chandra Pyromaster, 2 Destructive Revelry, and a Mob Roll. Got to imagine he likes Arbor Colossus.
Arbor Colossus is great for this kind of matchup. Chase does have several copies of Valorous Stance, but still, the more big stuff that Chris can produce, the more he can overwhelm Chase's few copies of things like Valorous Stance and finally power something through. I think the 2 copies of Wild Slash are very good in this matchup as well because Chase is bringing a lot of small creatures to the table, though it's possible Chase boards a fair bit of that out because Chris's deck is so adept at locking up the ground.
Both of these decks having a fantastic weekend, starting here 8-1. 2 decks that are eligible to be played in states next weekend, where we've got Standard on Saturday and Modern on Sunday.
If you're not competing in the Pro Tour in Brussels, Belgium, then go ahead and compete in Star City Games States Championship. You can head over to starcitygames.com/states for more information. All the events are posted at this point. Saturday will be Standard. That's on April 11th. And if you top 8 Standard States, you receive this playmat. The following day, on Sunday, April 12th, is Modern. And if you top 8 that one, then you get the following playmat here. And if you put them together, you get this.
It's a puzzle.
It's a puzzle piece. 2 pieces, one goes on top, one on the bottom. StarCityGames.com/states for more information. Again, all the venues are posted, all the locations, so you can find the one closest to you right now.
And if you're coming to Washington, only 7 of those will be available.
Yeah, only 7, because Cedric's already got them on lockdown.
I'm taking one of those each. Bring them home.
I think that it's greater than 0 I play in California states. I have to look to see how far away
Get
it
out
is.
there. Cast some spells.
You and I top 8ing with the same 75.
Duh.
Be quite the treat.
I'm making you do all the work. You got to build the deck, but I am more than happy sleeving up old Zergo and Foundry
I'm
Denizen.
going to be wandering over to the dealer booth here in a little bit, just in case. I'm going to pick up some Lightning Berserkers, some Zergo Bell Strikers.
Goodbyes. Goodbyes.
A couple roasts. I'm not saying that I'm going to compete, but I want to be prepared in the event that I do. Mardu Scouts also, because I'm obviously playing with Mardu Scout.
Yeah, we got to. The card's too cool.
Already own Fire Drink Crusaders, so don't have to worry about
I'm
that.
not playing with that.
That card's completely
I'm not
busted.
playing with that card.
It is completely busted.
The first time that thing gets roasted, I'm going to punch you in the face. I'm not playing with that card.
Can't win them all.
Can't I?
All right, well, let me know when you play against Obzon and you're like 2 points of damage short of winning the game.
Okay.
And you played a 1/1 on turn 1 instead of a Fire Drink Crusader.
Nothing
Let
I
me
can-
know about that game.
nothing I
That's
can
that's
do.
the thing. You won't have identified that that's the game that Fire Drink Crusader would have made a difference.
That's
You
true.
only look at the ones where it gets roasted.
That's true. Because those ones hurt the most.
And if your first
I've
play
been dealt 5.
If your first play got roasted anyway, it didn't matter that it was Fire Drink Crusader. You're just going to lose
I was
anyway.
just dead anyway.
You're
Okay.
just dead anyway.
Nice. That's a good deck.
So whatever.
I can't bear the idea of having my creature die and me taking 5. That's so much damage.
You just got to move on.
I
You
don't
get
shrug.
20. You get 20 life points. 5 of them
Yeah.
doesn't even matter.
25% of it is gone. It's just gone.
And that's
And my
just-
creature's gone.
and most people don't even have roast game 1. There's maybe a couple hanging out.
All
So
right. How about
You can
when
side
it gets,
'em out. You can
how
side
about
'em
when
out
it
in
gets
the red
Draconic
matchups.
Roared and I take 6 total?
that's not great either.
Okay. Just make sure we're on the same page. All this stuff is
You would
feeling
have taken
really painful.
3 and they have a drag in their hand otherwise. Like, that's still not very good. I don't know. A lot of these spots you're describing are spots where it feels like you would lose anyway.
All right. Maybe that's the case. Maybe not. Chase Kovac going to be on the play here for game number 2 against Chris VanMeter.
I like a couple copies of Roast in the main deck, like 2, third one on the board.
It's an easy sell.
Easy sell. Some heel cutters. Oh, yeah. 0 Rabble Masters. I'm going to work on this. We're going to have a list very soon.
I expect a great list. Temple of Triumph to start things here for Kovac.
And looks like Chase has gone big, bringing in his 1 copy of Elspeth, which I expected would come in here.
Seems great in this matchup. VanMeter Temple of Ban, his card stays on top. Battlefield forward to the draw here for Kovac. I believe the only thing missing in Chase's hand at this point is blue mana. So he'll go with a Temple on the search for it. Pass that turn back over to VanMeter. Draconic Roar the draw here for Chris.
Chase with an opportunity there to just simply cast Seeker of the Way on turn 2 off his Battlefield Forge and save the Temple down the line, but wanted to maximize his opportunity to find untapped blue mana next turn because he has Mana's Rider in hand. I think that in his spot, probably would have played Seeker of the Way because that card falls off a cliff so fast in this kind of matchup once Chris starts blocking, but I can appreciate just wanting to get to blue mana and Mana's Rider as fast as possible.
Wooded Foothills here for VanMeter. That's a mountain. Here's the Sylvan Carry added, a little acceleration, a little fixing, and a passing of the turn. Kovac picks up a copy of Shivan Reef.
Paid off.
There is the Reef. This is a Brahmaz, King of Oreskos.
It's a little bit harder to kill, and also you typically, if your haste threats and non-haste threats are of about the same value, which Brahmaz versus Mana's Rider is here, you're better served getting the non-haste threat out of your hand first, because it takes it a little longer to do something productive. Also can't be hit with Draconic Roar. So good stuff all around.
See how Chris takes care of the Lion King, if he is able. Step 1 is a Courser. Take a look at that top card. That one costs a lot.
Little out of Chris's price range right now. I think we're going to see that one go to the bottom.
Temple of Van allows Chris to gain a life, and Drangler Atarka is going to go hiding. Stormbreath Dragon, a little more Chris's speed.
Exactly. I'm looking for a budget option here. I don't need all the bells and whistles, just something I can play.
Flooded Strand, I believe, the draw here for Kovac.
So we'll go back and defend Chase's play that I was critical of. If he had Bramaz in hand as well and just needed to find and wanted to play that on turn 3 regardless, then I like not casting Seeker of the Way on turn 2.
Sure.
I thought he was just on Manus Rider, and at that point I would have just played the Seeker.
Though, as you did mention, Seeker does fall off a cliff very quickly, and it is rather poor, probably for the rest of this game.
I think that Chase might be willing to say that's fine in an attempt to get Bramaz out there as soon as possible, because if his hand's all creatures, well, even if he played it on turn 2, the Caryatid would have shut it down. So that's actually the reason that I like just siding those kind of cards out in this matchup, because I think it's very rare for them to be good. But I can also, in Chase's spot, appreciate just saying, well, I got other stuff to do with my mana, and if this card doesn't really come up, that's fine.
Looks like it might be Mantis Rider time, and it is. Chase taking 1 to cast it. You have to imagine he is leaving up mana for God's Willing, as here are the attacks. There's a block on the cat token. And we'll have some damage come through. VanMeter under the gun. Stormbreath the draw. Top card of the deck is an Elvish Mystic. And Chris does not have another land in his hand. His hand is actually full of all these red cards.
No. The Corsair Crufix revealing a small mana creature has got to be one of the most depressing things to happen to you when you're playing these decks.
It's a feel bad.
Not only is it not a land, but it's also something low impact that's going to take a while to get going. Chris has got a lot of time here. He has a Draconic Roar to take care of the Mantis Rider. His board currently blocks Bramaz okay. He has the option of putting Corsair in front and allowing Chase to generate a 1/1 token, or just blocking the token with Corsair taking some lumps. So he's got a little bit of time to draw out. But his hand is getting a little clogged.
On the upkeep, we'll have a Draconic Roar. Revealing Stormbreath Dragon. That's going to go after Mantis Rider, of course. We'll see if Kovac does have the God's Willing.
Chris doing this on Chase's upkeep because Chase had the 1 mana available to God's Willing, and Chris would rather make Chase spend the mana on his own turn and not allow him to cast God's Willing for free with the 1 mana left over he had it on Chris's turn.
So we'll see if Chase actually does have God's Willing in this instance. He certainly acted like he did last turn, willing to take a point of damage to cast the Mantis Rider. Chris is actually going to find out right now if it was true or not. Kovac will take 3. So it seems as though it was a bluff. Chase will draw. And that was land number 6 for Elspeth. Battlefield Forge would be land number 5 at this point. And now here is Seeker of the Way. It's time to attack, it seems. And inside of this attack, we're going to have ourselves a Stoke the Flames to go after the Courser.
So Chase had the opportunity to do this play last turn and elected not to because he was worried about Chris playing the Stormbreath Dragon. Now with Chris missing a land drop and Chase aware that Chris is going to be drawing an Elvish Mystic next turn and not a land, Chase is fine getting rid of the Courser because he knows there's no imminent threat of Stormbreath Dragon coming down.
Elvish Mystic will be turned face down. Caryatid will get in front of the cat token. And Bramaz will come across for 3. The combination of Vigilance and Convoke very powerful.
And I like that play from Chase over the course of the last 2 turns. Stormbreath Dragon being protection from white would have been really problematic for Chase's board of Mantis Rider and Vermaz, so hold the Stoke for 1 turn. But once it's clear Chris doesn't have the ability to cast it, go ahead and take care of the Courser, set Chris behind, and hope that he either doesn't draw the 5th mana or you can tempo him out of the game by the time he's able to assemble it.
We're back Kovac's way, as all VanMeter did last turn was playing Elvish Mystic. Chase ready to go straight to the attack step. The Lion King and the Cats coming in. Chris will just block a cat token. Chase will sacrifice his Flooded Strand. Planeswalker Island coming. That means Elspeth is probably on the way too.
Yep. And this is also a pretty powerful way to play around the Stormbreath Dragon. If Chris leaves it on defense, Chase has the option of just minusing it, getting Stormbreath Dragon off the table. And Chris can't go on the offensive and take care of Elspeth because it's going up to 5 loyalty and Stormbreath can only attack for 4. So this is another very good play from Chase here, anticipating the Stormbreath Dragon he knows about in Chris's hand.
3 soldiers, passing of the turn. The Sun's Champion has arrived as VanMeter will take a draw step. Forest is what he's drawn. But he's in a world of trouble right now. 7 life. And still in 1 spell per turn territory right now.
And the only way that he could really play around Chase's board right now is trying to go on the offensive with Stormbreath Dragon and hope that Crater's Claws closes out. But the ability of Elspeth to go minus and take care of the Stormbreath Dragon, I think is too much for Chris to overcome.
And Chris is going to concede the game, realizing that. So Chase Kovac will win game number 2 against Chris VanMeter. Jeskai aggro, red-green aggro, will play a 3rd one. And what is almost surely going to just be a back-and-forth matchup.
Well, you can see how important it is for Chase to keep Chris off balance. Once Chris has his mana and starts just casting his spells against Chase's spells, Chris's are a lot better. It's a lot bigger. A lot of them are hard for Chase to answer. A lot of them are productive the turn they come into play. So that's problematic for Chase. Where Chase has an advantage is that Chris is a little bit clunkier and it can take him a while to start casting 2 spells a turn. So Chase's big tempo swings like Make a Play and Valorous Stance, whatever you just cast, or Icefall Regent, the big play you just made attack you in the air. Those are the type of tempo exchanges that give Chase an edge. So it's very important for him to be able to keep Chris's big plays off balance with cheap removal, with things like Icefall Regent. Stoke the Flames is very important because once Chris starts getting to make his plays uncontested, his deck's a lot more powerful than Chase's.
Game number 3 between Kovac and VanMeter are underway here in just a moment, but we will quickly talk about, the updates to the Star City Games buy list. It was a real mess before, but after some hard work, it's all better now.
Yeah, instead of control F'ing and clicking through multiple iterations of the card, hoping to find the one that you actually have, and then try to find the place where it tells you how condition modifies the buy list price, now you can just punch that all into a search engine and make the process a lot easier. New pricing tools are also available for language and condition, so if you have a card but it's in moderately played condition, punch in your card, hit moderate played, and Star City Games buy list will spit out a price for you. You can also do this preemptively before you submit to either the physical store or to one of our vendors at a show that we're running to save yourself a lot of time. So you just drop off your list with your pre-approved buy list and take your money and be on your way. I've actually used this myself already. It's significantly better than the old buy list, so if you haven't used it before or you've used our buy list before in either event, head over to starcitygames.com/buy list and check it out right now. You need to be registered for the website to be able to access the buy list, but that's something you should just be doing anyway.
Simple stuff. StarCityGames.com/buy list for more information. As Chris VanMeter will be on the play here for game number 3. Red-green aggro has brought him back to the winner's circle. Should have never gotten away from Stormbreath Dragon.
It's still a long day in front of him.
True.
But we're probably going to see a pretty, this is not going to be the toughest in terms of record tournament to make the top 8. The field's going to be really tough. You know, the Northeast is very good and it's a small field, so that means that all the ringers come out. But in terms of where he's at now in this tournament, much better position than he's been in quite a while in the Open Series.
Well, we'll see what he can do on the play here. Maybe find a little bit of mana acceleration. Stormbreath Dragon seems like a difficult card for Kovac.
It cannot be hit with Valorous Stance. The Stoke the Flames are already pretty taxed, and Chase is only playing 2 this weekend. Icefall region, even if it doesn't stick around permanently, Chris can remove it in a variety of ways, but even if Chase gets one turn of your Storm Breath Dragon shut down, Chris has to untap and use a fair bit of his following turn to get the region off the table. That might be enough. If Chase is doing all that work to keep Chris off balance, that might be enough to tempo Storm Breath out of the game, but he does not have a lot of straight answers to it. Encase in Ice, one in the sideboard. That's a pretty solid answer as well.
Definitely solid. Haven't seen a ton of that card yet.
3 copies of Disdainful Stroke.
A lot of people are excited about Encase in Ice as a sideboard card. Just hasn't shown up a ton yet.
All those cards are super good, in my opinion. It's just, are the matchups showing up frequently enough that it's worth having them? And In Hyuk Wong, who's 8-1 right now with Red Black, beat down sort of the deck and story of day one. 4 copies of Self-Inflicted Wound in the sideboard.
And that was nice.
And when we watch that card in action, when your opponent is casting green or white creatures, it's very powerful. The same is true for all of these designs. So
Chris keeps his hand pretty quickly. We'll see if Chase is willing to keep his. He does not look thrilled about the 7 that he has found. If he was going to keep it, was going to be a reluctant one.
Sure looked that way.
That's for sure.
That looked like the body language of someone where every fiber of their being was telling them to mulligan.
Yeah, that's what it felt like to me too. He did not look happy with his opening hand at all. But hey, probably a good mulligan. Probably a good idea.
You love a good mulligan, so.
Love mulliganing. Look, my thought is when you're looking at a hand like that, you're convincing yourself to keep a bad hand.
For the most part, yeah. But then there's also the how competitive are my 6-card hands going to be on the balance against my opponent's average 7. So there's some matchups where you're playing against Thoughtseize decks where, well, if my opponent has a reasonable 7-card hand with a Thoughtseize and I mulligan to 6, even a good mulligan to 6 may still not be good enough to win.
It's true.
But in this kind of matchup, Chris is going to let Chase play his game. He's not going to be really disruptive in that sense. So Chase should be willing to mulligan bad hands. You're never happy to mulligan, obviously, but there's some matchups where...
Incorrect.
Well, you are happy.
The 7th card is a luxury.
Because you just like to show off what your range of mulligans
That's
are.
not true at all. The 7th card is a luxury. If I get to keep 7 cards, I am doing good. It's an Ohio thing. You wouldn't understand.
I guess not. I come from the land of Gerard Fabiano, so
Never mind.
our mulligan standards are a bit different.
Yeah. The New Jersey folk do it a little different. See if Kovac likes this one a little better. We're underway here in game number 3. VanMeter will start off with a Forest. No Elvish Mystic, just a passing of the turn. Kovac with a Mystic Monastery. Chris with a Mountain. Again, no acceleration, just passing the turn back.
We saw Chris keep a hand like this game 1 as well, where he had Courser on turn 3, no mana acceleration.
Kovac does have the ability to play Seeker of the Way or Soulfire Grandmaster. He'll go with Seeker of the Way. I have a feeling it's going to die, but it won't. Wow. All right, Chris, what do we got over there?
Looks like Courser, Arbor Colossus, some lands. It's a slow hand, but I think definitely a keepable 7.
Elvish Mystic was the draw. There is the Mystic. There's Draconic Roar. Excuse me, there's Roast. And a passing of the turn. Wild Slash. Go Chris's way. Temple of Abandon the draw. Here's a Courser. Let's take a look at that top card. Ash Cloud Phoenix. Temple. I'll put 2 triggers on, one for the Courser, one for Scry. Chris will just gain life, keep Ash Cloud on top, pass that turn back. Kovac will pass. Ash Cloud's the draw, Wooded Foothills on top. Foothills will enter the battlefield. That'll trigger the Courser. Haven of the Spirit Dragon on top of the deck now.
So let's see how much Chris respects the possibility of Disdainful Stroke.
That is the question, right? Because he has the ability to play Ash Cloud Phoenix face up, has the ability to play it as Morph or Arbor Colossus. He plays the Ash Cloud Phoenix face up, it gets stroked, and now it's a pass.
Yeah, that's a very good hedge there from Chris, because Arbor Colossus into Disdainful Stroke is really bad for Chris if that happens. I think playing a Morph is just too mopey, because if Chase doesn't have Disdainful Stroke, you're giving him a lot of time to draw out. So just hard cast the Ash Cloud Phoenix. If it hits a Disdainful Stroke, your Arbor Colossus is still good. And if Chase has nothing, then you're still advancing your board in a pretty productive way.
Yeah, it's a really interesting situation, especially because we have access to Chase's deck list. So if Arbor Colossus resolves, that might be perfectly fine because he has so many copies of Valor Stance. And, you know, there's like this weird trade-off where if you play Ash Cloud Phoenix face down, then you're opening yourself up to Wild Slash. So there's a lot that I think that goes into that decision that turn.
Yep. No, it's not an easy turn to play. I think that I like what Chris did ultimately.
Carry out of the draw.
You could just jam Arbor Colossus. You could play a Morph. There's a lot of different ways to go. I like splitting the difference there because there's a lot of competing interests.
Wooded Foothills. And what we think will be an Arbor Colossus. We'll see. Yep. Chris going to sacrifice that Wooded Foothills. I think he's going searching for a Mountain and a Crater's Claws to get this Soulfire Grandmaster out of here, given that Ferocious has been satisfied.
I don't know what the pressing need is to get Soulfire Grandmaster off the table, though.
He may just be sacrificing his Foothills to get some information on if he wants a Crater's Claws or not. Like, we'll see the top card of the deck. It's your Draconic Roar.
With Chase stalling on lands quite a bit here, I kind of like the line of play of just start attacking and hope that Crater's Claws finishes him off before Chase draws out.
Well, here's an attack for 2. And just a passing in the turn. I find no reason to cast Crater's Claws this turn.
Neither do I.
Chase has got a lot of work to do. And as you mentioned, that can just be your finisher.
And if Chase has an answer to the Arbor Colossus, then you're probably better served having the Crater's Claws available to take care of something more impactful. Because the Soulfire Grandmaster does not matter a lot while Chase is missing land drops.
Rugged Highlands enters the battlefield. Draconic Roar will get Soulfire Grandmaster out of the way. And I'm okay with this play. It's just a situation, again, where do you need to actually use a removal spell on this 2/2? Maybe yes, maybe no. It's certainly giving Kovac something to think about.
I don't really mind it. With another Roar on top of the deck, I'm happy to just do attack. And
there's a carry added. Pass the turn over to Kovac.
You know, if Chase has something like Lightning Strike, do you want him blocking and then Lightning Striking your Courser down? I'm fine with the Draconic Roar there.
Either way, things do line up great here for Chris VanMeter. He's going to win this match over Chase Kovac 2-1. Red-Green Aggro will take care of Jeskai Aggro. VanMeter moves on to 9-1. This is what happens, Chris, when you play with Stormbreath Dragon.
Yeah, Chase, unfortunately, not a great draw there. Game 3, having to mulligan. A spot where Valorous Stance would have been very, very good for him in a couple spots, but Red-Green Aggro can close the game out pretty quickly against a deck that's not up to much, and